So yesterday we had the blog post. Wait, yesterday, technically I'm recording this on a Saturday, but the video's probably not going to go out on whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not going out on a Saturday. On Friday, we had the blog post, which told us about Unlimited X-Men. And I think that really the standout of all of this, including patch 6.1, which is the upcoming patch, is, in my opinion, Gambit. And it's probably no surprise, and, for anyone who's a super big fan of Gambit, I want to say that, I'm neither here nor there about the character, but it's okay. I know a lot of people are excited about this, but he seems to be the best standout character, in my opinion, of patch 6.1. And that includes, if you guys have seen my character spreadsheet, includes all the characters that are coming in patch 6.1, including Spider-Woman, Nico, Phantom X, Gambit himself, and Dazzler. And so I think that the standout of this patch is going to be Gambit. And the good news is he's actually either going to be a campaign event or a milestone. And the reason why we know this is that he has a tag. It was shown. I don't have the photo on hand. I should have had that ready. But it had the tag of the trait Debonair. And so that is either a campaign event limited trait, or it could be also a limited trait for a milestone event. Either way, that it seems like, well, we can thankfully he's not going to be a Blitz character, so thank fuck for that, right? Hopefully that was within 60 seconds of YouTube. I'm not supposed to swear about that, but I hate when certain good characters are going to be Blitz releases. So we can kind of thank our lucky stars that that's probably not the case here, that it's going to be either a campaign event or a milestone character. Now, we don't know if he's a 45 shard character or a 100 shard character. At this stage, all we know about this patch anyways coming up is that Spider-Woman is going to be a 100 shard unlock, and she's going to be a 20, this 28-day milestone that's going to be coming up pretty soon. So I just wanted to start off there. Also, for those of you who are or who will be looking to gear Gambit, Gambit is going to be he's tempered osmium for his unique. So yes, you remember that new osmium that was used for Morgan Le Fay? Well, it's also going to be used for Gambit's unique. And so make sure that you're hoarding or starting to recollect these for Gambit, because you're going to need another 61 tempered osmium for Gambit for when he gets released. And we're going to talk about exactly why I think he's going to be really good, and someone that you're going to want to really focus on. Now, this is other things aside. Like, we don't know things about Scourge or anything, so we're not here to talk about A-Force or anything like that in this video. We're here, it's specifically a Gambit video, which is shocking. Yeah, I know. So that's what we're going to be up to. So without further ado, let's get this show started. Okay, so we're just back on the blog post to start anyways. And so this was a really huge, long blog post. There's lots to talk about, so we're going to scroll back down to Gambit and talk about him. And so when I think about how good a character is or isn't going to be, or whether or not I want to invest in them, unfortunately, I have to frame things in where am I going to use them to start, and also how many other places can I use them? Is he viable outside his team? Is he not? Why is this important? Because there's going to be people in the comments down below who are going to ask me, why does it matter if he's usable outside his team? Because most characters are designed to be in their team. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's like, maybe maybe the team itself is not that good outside of their intended game mode. This happens a lot, right? Some say that, for example, there's a lot of war teams that aren't necessarily all that good outside of war. Heroes for Hire is a war defense team, and the only good character outside of that team is Shang-Chi. Why am I bringing this up? Because I think out of all of them, at least what we've seen so far, Gambit is that top dog, I think, of the team, so far of what I've seen. So we know that this Unlimited X-Men team is largely a Cosmic Crucible team, but I think that because there's a lot of reasons why he's going to be quite viable in Doom Raid, why I think he could be viable in, heck, Avengers Tower, Now, whether or not you want to take him into Dark Dimension, I think that will depend on your choices for Dark Dimension, because I think that you're going to want to pair him up with other mutants, and specifically other X-Men. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, anyone, and I mentioned this in my blog post video, I believe as well, is that just like the Secret Avengers and the Young Avengers, anyone with the various X-Men tags, with the exception of X-Force, I think, they all have the base X-Men tag. So Unlimited X-Men, Astonishing XMen, Uncanny X-Men, they all have that base X-Men tag. I know that X-23 was given that, but nobody else. Cable? I don't know if Cable even has the base X-Men tag, but I don't know if it matters. But I know that X-23 part of that team does. So as far as his kit goes, I'm really impressed with it. I think this is a really interesting idea that they decided to do with Gambit, with this special, right? Having that energy constant 0 to 0. So this is kind of wonky when it comes to the AI usage a little bit, because I think they explained it in the Strike Time video that his special will only activate in auto if he's got charged, or on the defense. But as far as you using him, you could use this as much as you want. But obviously if you don't have charge, you're not going to get that ability block portion, but you're still attacking primary targets and adjacents for 300% piercing and bleed for 2 turns, which is pretty good, you know. So you have the option of, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? So primary target for 300%, and it's not piercing damage, right? And then the bonus attack for 200 for 50% piercing and apply heal block. So I guess it really depends on, do you want to do more area damage and more bleeds, or do you want to really like try and kill somebody? I think that's what the point here of the basic is like that bonus attack, the most injured enemy, assuming he doesn't have death brief, like you might be able to kill him, right? And I guess that's when you'll make that decision of whether or not you're using the basic or the special. So, but other parts of this, of course, there is some Crucible text here, but most of this applies to Unlimited X-Men. There are additional parts of his kit like this where it does, have a chance to affect all X-Men regardless of their tag, but this is in Crucible. The charged part gives ability block, and if you didn't read the blog post, or if you haven't yet and you didn't check out my blog post video, we'll see below like why this is so important. This part anyways here, and why this is relevant to other game modes. So yeah, they explain how the AI works if you're, and this is also for autoing as well. His ultimate, I think the 6 actually isn't terribly high on an ultimate. Sometimes if it's like 7, 6 is kind of high, but I would say like 7 or 8 or higher is also really bad. This is an AoE with a huge number modifier, and what I wanted to, and I really should have had this up sooner. I want to compare this to, and I type really fast, so it's fine. Black Bolt's AoE. I don't actually know what that is, but I just, for shits and giggles, so Black Bolt's AoE, which used to be one of the best ultimates in the game for AoE damage, is 500% damage on a cooldown of 6. And that's all it does, right? It's not even piercing, it's just 500% damage. So, as a legendary character, this was one of the top ultimate abilities that did just generic AoE damage. And so, comparatively, Gambit has 520 here, same cooldown, but it does more things, right? And so that's really cool. So if this character has 3 or more X-Men allies, apply Disrupt for 2 turns to all enemies. And this is going to be really important, but this is also why it's more viable in other game modes, this part here. Now, wanting to disrupt them really is going to depend on what you're doing, right? Like, how much is this going to impact them? Well, it depends on where you're using them. But in Crucible, flipping is great. And it's unavoidable and cannot be blocked. So Black Bolt's is not unavoidable, only a special is, which means that it can be dodged and it can be evaded and things like that, whereas his is not. So that's great. And which means you can't even blind him either. I'm pretty sure unavoidable means, just like the Iron Man special, the Mordo ult, things like that. If it says unavoidable, I'm pretty sure that means the blind doesn't matter either. He just kind of like sprays indiscriminately, more or less. So that's good too. Whether or not you run into that or not, I don't know. But that's a good extra aspect of the ability that's going to make him pretty cool. Now, his passive, so that's where you get the charged, right? The on-spawn gain charged, you get 2 charges if you're in Cosmic Crucible, but this is what allows you to do that ability block on your special, right? And so the special has no cooldown, which means you can use it whenever you want. It's available at all times. So this is why I think that he's going to make a good choice for adding in a mixed Doomraid mutant team here, but specifically with X-Men, you might be able to even use more Unlimited X-Men. I don't know why I was thinking Invincible X-Men. So I think that we're shuffling slowly towards phasing out some of the Astonishing X-Men, at least for now, possibly using Gambit. Now, the question is, why do you want to do this? Or why would you want to do this, right, at all for raids? And there's a couple of reasons, and it depends on how far you are in the game and, like, how built up is your team. So I've been saying for a long time, maybe not a long time, a couple of months anyways, I've been telling people to hold back off their Astonishing X-Men, because unless you were in super dire need of it right now, like, it just wasn't something that I thought that people should be committing to for their mutant gear, because we knew that it was inevitable that there was going to be more mutants around the corner. And so the question is, we can use well, maybe not quite, this is the statement that I'm making, is that Gambit looks to be viable now, or when he comes out. And we also have 2 more of these unlimited X-Men that we don't know of yet. And one of them very well could be a legendary. And if they're a mutant, presumably they probably will be, but we'll see, right? That they'll also be viable in Doomraid Mutant as well. So I would not be surprised if this unlimited X-Men team actually ends up replacing Astonishing X-Men. Or it's hybridized to a significant degree that you're not going to be building up the entire team. And again, why does this matter? And why do I think that this is going to be the case? Is because, well, you know, we've seen with the Eternals and some other powerful characters that they don't necessarily need to have the raid tag to be good, right? You don't need raid text just to be good in a game mode. Eternals blew shit out of the water, and they still are. So I'll be very surprised when the next Mystic team comes out, if they do, that somehow topples over the powerfulness of the Mystics, the Eternals. And so Gambit will be really crucial in this aspect, and very well the Unlimited X-Men as a whole could end up being that next big team for Doom Raid, even though they're not designed so far. You know, they're not designed for that. It seems like it's going to be a Cosmic Crucible team. But that doesn't mean that you can't use them, because their kits, their base stats, everything is going to be very good, right? And so what I really like about Gambit is actually this, at the end of enemy turn, attack the most injured enemy, ignoring taunt for 180% piercing. This is really good, and applies heal block. And so we can kind of, let's take, for example, like Ghost Spider. You know, and I should probably just look at my own roster, but I think it's quicker for me to actually get to her. Not Ghost Spider. Yeah, Ghost Spider. Why is it not showing up? So her passive Retaliate, right? And we kind of know because we've been using her a lot lately. Is 200, I think, isn't it? Oh, where is it? No, it's 250 actually. Sorry, my bad. But that's not piercing damage. So Gambit's is 180, but it's piercing. So I think that at the end of the day, it'll be very similar in terms of the damage output, and we know that if you're buffed properly, that this is going to do a shit ton of damage. You know, and it applies heal block. So this is actually a little bit better because you're applying a negative stats effect, which is really nice. Now, if you're running him alongside, say, Beast, Beast will actually, on his ultimate, give offense up to Gambit because he's a blaster. So any blaster characters actually will get offense up from the ult, which is nice, right? So if Gambit's like, if other enemies are taking their turn, Gambit's chucking cards and doing offense up 180% piercing. So this could, you know, stack up to a good degree. And if he's a campaign event character, that's like an easy 4 or 5 star, which means that he is going to be a pretty solid character that hopefully a lot of us are going to be able to get at a decent star level, which is great for a new character, and, you know, great for newer players as well, because this is going to be a character that you're going to want to invest in, especially if you haven't started investing in Astonishing X-Men, because like I said just a little bit earlier, I wouldn't recommend building into Astonishing X-Men at this stage, since we're getting a brand new mutant team that looks to be quite powerful as a unit. And if that's the case, then you'll be able to use them all in Doom Raid as well. It's just that I think that Gambit is going to be, currently, you know, unless Rogue, who might be the next Scourge, who knows, could also be a legendary, could be that step up from Gambit. But regardless, Gambit's going to be super important. Like his kit, look how long these passives are, by the way. I used to count bullet points. I used to count how many bullet points do new characters have in their passive, because sometimes it's getting a little bit out of hand. If you have like 10 or more bullet points, I think it's a bit out of hand, and he has 6, 8, 10, 11. So that means there's a lot of stuff going on with him. Some of this is Crucible related stuff, but still, you can see that it's pretty good. When he drops below 50% health for the first time, he gains stealth for 2 turns, and so when he's in stealth, he also gets drained, so really good for his survivability here when he gets evade. Now, this is the next question, though, is where would he get evade? Now, I don't think using alongside Astonishing X-Men, he can't. Like, we know he gets evade in his team, in his unlimited X-Men team, and I'm just kind of wondering if there are ways to do this with the characters that are existing currently, and I don't think that there is, unless you were to run Psylocke, but I don't think, unless she's getting a rework, this probably is not something you'll be doing right now, because I know that Psylocke applies evade to... Maybe it's Uncanny X-Men. You know, without looking, I don't remember how the evade is applied and to who. But there's that too. And so when we see that, yeah, so on crit apply evade. So you want to stack a Raider with him. I was just saying that other ways for him to get it other than his own damage. But what's interesting, and here's one question that I can't answer, and I wonder if somebody else can. Maybe not, I didn't mean you guys, but I mean that maybe this can be answered soon. If he crits on his passive, will this give evade? Right? So we've heard this statement that passives don't trigger passives. Now, can he passive crit on himself and trigger his own passive? That's, I think, something we don't have an answer for yet. If there has been and I missed it, and it was like deep into the strike time that I somehow bypassed that, let me know in the comments down below. But that will be a curious question, whether or not his passive can crit, and if well, I know the passive can crit, whether or not him critting on his passive will activate the evade. That's really important, because then obviously with the evade he gets all that and he gets more crit, and then it just continues on, right? And so that's really important. You're going to want to give him the Raider ISO, because especially outside of his team, because he's not going to have too much additional ways to get crit in order to trigger that evade. So you want to give him a Raider when he does eventually come out, and we'll see with the other characters what ends up happening. But yeah, I am curious about the whole passive on passive sort of aspect, but why he's so good with other X-Men allies, and why you'll probably want to plant him in with the Astonishing X-Men really here is this, that he's giving 25% max health. And so that's really good, because that's improving the survivability of all X-Men, but including the Astonishing X-Men. And so for this, I'm going to jump back into my game here. And I want to kind of show you, my guys, my Astonishing X-Men, but also specifically that I think that he has the best chances of probably replacing Kitty Pryde. I think that you're probably gonna want to keep Iceman still, because I think this passive is just really important. I think he'll lose this aspect, that he won't be able to revive, actually, because you're not going to have Kitty Pryde on the team. But the fact that you're lowering armor by all enemies by 25%, 20% with slow, and then the 30% damage in raids with slow, I think this is really important. So I think that he is still someone that you're going to want to keep around. But Kitty Pryde, on the other hand, you know, we've always been wanting to get rid of her, and some people have. You know, some people have used Omega Red in the boss node, but I found him to be, on his own, Omega Red anyways, a bit unpredictable, and things can go the wrong way pretty easily if you don't have, if you get blinded by Taskmaster in that node on the boss node, then, you know, I can't ability block Doom properly. So that's come around before. Not to mention that Omega Red's is a legendary character anyways, so for people who don't have him, that's not really an option, whereas Gambit's not a legendary character, so this is a potential option for other people who are doing, you know, whether it's Doom Raid 1 or Doom Raid 2 or whatever, right? And so what are you missing? And we'll just start at the top. What are we missing by not having Kitty Pryde? Well, she can clear some positive effects. Okay, you know, it's not the end of the world, frankly, if you're running a couple of skirmishers on the team. Offense down. This is not super important. It's helpful, right? But you can also get offense down from Jubilee's ultimate, and so it's not the end of the world, personally, and you're already getting the damage reduction from Iceman. I don't actually use this super often, this ultimate here, applying Disrupt. One of the most notable places that I use this is disrupting Hulk on Doom Raid Mutant Node 2. Other than that, there's not that many instances that I have to use that. And so a lot of it comes from her passive, right? And what she does for the team. So if they dodge, it heals, does a little bit of extra healing. But I have to say that Beast heals so effing much that you're probably not going to miss this, to be honest. At least I think that way. Because Beast is a super huge healer. Like, he just spits out so much health assuming they're not heal blocked. And so raids on turn, defense up. This is on her turn. Defense up to the 2 most injured allies. And then this is probably the biggest thing that you might miss. On enemy turn, apply evade to the most injured Astonishing X-Men ally herself. Now, if this was somehow viable on all X-Men allies, this would be very good to go hand in hand with Gambit, and then therefore, you know, maybe might give you an argument to get rid of Iceman. But at this point, I think that this is probably all you're going to miss. I think what you're gaining from Gambit, though, is his damage, which is going to help to push you through these nodes quicker than you did before. Not only are you still getting that the ability block from the special, which is going to be helpful when you're fighting Dr. Doom, but overall his damage is going to be way higher than Kitty's. So I think that if you're in this position where you're taking a long time to clear the nodes, I know for me, Doom Raid 2 Mutant takes me like 3.5 to 4 minutes to clear some of the nodes. Now that's at Doom 2.1, and so maybe this is harder for some others or easier for others if you're just doing 2.0. But I find that the damage is a little bit lacking. So I think overall, because you're getting 520% damage, and like I said, I compared this to Black Bolt, that's pretty huge damage, and he's hitting everyone on their turn, if they take a turn, of course, for 180% piercing, and then you're doing some pretty large numbers here as well, 300% piercing plus applied bleed for 2 turns. You know, so there's a lot more damage than you're getting out from Kitty Pryde, who doesn't really hit particularly hard. The other good thing, attack all enemies for 230, her ultimate 260, you know, so these are very low numbers comparatively to Gambit. And what's good about not having Kitty Pryde on the team and putting Gambit there, like I said, everyone's getting 25% hit points, but also Kitty Pryde is no longer part of the assist chain from Jubilee. So I find that when Kitty Pryde is actually the person who gets the assist on this team, it takes up more time and she's doing less damage. So that means that it frees up space for, you know, Bishop assists or whatever, right? Or Beast, because he can clear positive status effects as well on his basics. So there's a lot of reasons why you don't really need Kitty Pryde, and I think Gambit's the one you're going to want to slot in here. But hey, you know, that's just my personal thoughts, because I've been thinking about this on the lead up to patch 6.1, and I want to know, like, who's kind of the one that you should be looking out for in this coming patch. I think it's going to be Gambit, but let me know in the comments down below. Maybe you guys are super big fans of Phantom X and Dazzler, but I think as far as slotting in to other places, I think it's less likely to be them and more likely to be Gambit. So just wanted to go over this really quickly with you all just before we get up to the new patch, and yeah, interested to hear what you guys have to say on the matter. If you're probably big mega fans of Gambit, you're going to do it anyways, but I just wanted to kind of talk about some more broader usage, and specifically in Doom Raid for those of you who may have been on the fence about building Astonishing X-Men. Well, you know, it's possible that by 6.2, you might not necessarily even need Astonishing X-Men, but at least for the moment, if you do have Astonishing X-Men, slotting in Gambit when you get them into Kitty Pryde slot could actually be a net positive for everyone. So we'll find out though, right? And so that's the end of this video, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.